Hey everybody, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review. This time from our friends at Second Gate Games, who've given us a copy of their title, Cactus Town. Cactus Town is a programming game for 2 to 4 players in which you'll take on a specific role in a Wild West town that's laid out with cards for the whole town that you're set in. You could be the lawful sheriffs, or the outlaws, perhaps the bounty hunters, or even the can-can dancer trying to set a new name for yourself and set out on a new course in your life. Each player that you'll take the role of, or faction that you'll take the role of, has a unique set of objectives and goals and cards that they're going to use as they program their way around the city to accomplish their goals. If you're a fan of programming and the hijinks and hilarity that can come up with that type of a game, then you're not going to want to miss out on Cactus Town and all the excitement that is packed into this very tiny little box. So join me at the table and let's jump in and learn how to play Cactus Town. Welcome to Cactus Town, a small town set in the Wild West where there is a lot of chaos and hijinks afoot. In this setup, we have 4 players set up as the can-can dancer, sheriffs, outlaws, and bounty hunters from left to right on your screen, all set up around an asymmetric and uniquely placed board. Each of these factions have their own goals and objectives that they are looking to accomplish throughout the course of the game, and they will be doing so by moving around the town of Cactus Town looking for specific buildings to activate abilities, find certain objectives, and complete their goals before their opponents. They'll also be getting into tiffs with their opponents through duels, lockdowns, breakouts, and all kinds of other things based on their faction. Cactus Town is a programming game, so players have in their hand 4 unique cards with abilities, values, and certain actions that you can take. Every round of Cactus Town is played over a series of turns, with players choosing 3 of those 4 cards to set face down in front of them to be their turns from left to right, being turns 1, 2, and 3. Players will then proceed to each flip over one of their cards, their leftmost card first, proceeding to the middle and then the right card, to take actions that they've programmed out in attempts to accomplish their goals by moving around the town, flipping over cards, and seeing what buildings they can discover. Of course, your well-laid plans can be messed up by your opponents repositioning you, stunning you, or even sending you to jail. So you have to be prepared and be flexible as you go about your business in Cactus Town. There's a lot to uncover and unpack in this game, so let's go ahead and zoom in and take a look at a particular player faction area, and then begin to gain an understanding of what the player board, these cards, really do and how they function. You'll notice here there are actually a few modules in Cactus Town that are included that you can add or not add to your game to increase or decrease the depth of the game based on your preferences. We have these tokens on the left-hand side of the board that allow you to have additional options and strategy as you duel and perform other actions in the game. And we also have advanced buildings in the red that allow you to change the buildings out and even add additional strategic plans based on how you move around Cactus Town. So we have all that set up, and we'll discover and discuss all of that in due time. But first, let's take a look at a player area and understand what all you can do in Cactus Town. Now, as mentioned before, there are 4 unique factions in the game of Cactus Town. There is the can-can dancer featured here, the sheriffs and deputies, the outlaws, and then the bounty hunters, each with unique objectives and goals throughout the game. And you'll see that each one has this really handy little handout card here that walks you through each of the symbology and actions that that particular faction can take throughout the course of the game. Each player has their own little hidden screen to hide tokens behind. You'll be gaining tokens, depending on modules you'll play with, that you can use throughout the game, as well as any specific particular tokens that your character may have access to. In this case, the can-can dancer has access to their love letters and their little dual token tracker here as well. Every faction in the game has 4 cards. They are a little bit unique, but have a general same feel of what they can do. We have the very fun art style here, the symbology that dictates which character those cards belong to, and then we have a bullet number and actions on the bottom and top of the card. The bullet number is what's called your second shot value. Now, in the course of each round of the game, players are going to choose 3 of these cards to turn face down in front of them, and 1 to put face down on its side, and that's going to be your second shot. You'll be programming these in order from left to right, so this would be my first turn, second turn, and third turn of each round of the game. So I would select this anew, of course, every round, but let's just say this is my setup. On any given turn then, I'll reveal my first card to take my action, which is dictated by the symbology on the bottom. Don't worry, if you have questions, you can use your little handout to tell you exactly what that ability does, and we'll look at how that functions and plays on the map in just a moment. So you'll go through taking your turn, doing your actions, But in the course of the game, you may find yourself in a duel. If you share space with an opponent, one of the ways that you can get around them because you're stuck with them is either sneak away or duel them to try and stun them and push them away. So if you get into a duel, duels are very simple in this game. You will roll your d6 to see what value you get, and then you can choose to add your second shot card if you want as well, which adds the bullet value, so 0, 3, or 2 in this case 2, to your total value. Players compare their value, and if they added their second shot or not, the highest value wins the duel and gets the victory. The opponent is stunned and gets pushed several spaces away based on where the winner wants them to go. So it can really mess up your programming if you lose a duel and get repositioned in that way. Now, once you use your second shot bullet, it is tapped and can't be used in future duels for the rest of the round. So make sure you plan wisely on when you really want that extra oomph to make sure you win your duel. But again, play will continue like this until a player accomplishes all of their particular goals and objectives set for them. Again, we have the Can-Can Dancer, general overview. Can-Can Dancer wants to win duels and get around town. She's trying to start a new life, so she's got to kind of check a few things off her to-do list, get to certain places, building locations, and then she has to win a set amount of duels. If she does that, she wins the game. The bounty hunters want to capture an outlaw and take him with them and rustle some horses on their way out of town. So they have to go to specific places and flip over horse tokens to rustle up their horses that they need. The outlaws are trying to find specific loot that they've hidden in the town. They have to go to specific buildings that are laid out for them at the start of the game, find their loot, plunder their loot, and then get out of town. The sheriffs and deputies, of course, are trying to catch the outlaws. They want to grab the outlaws, stun them by winning a duel, and then drag them back to jail, put them in jail, and keep them there, and make sure the bounty hunters don't break them out and take them. So that's what every goal and kind of player is trying to accomplish throughout the game. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the overall map of Cactus Town and talk about how movement and interactions work with players. Cactus Town. This is a setup and what it would look like for a 4-player game as you jump into Cactus Town. Each player has a setup as dictated by a card, and they're kind of set up at the corners and outskirts of town, except for the sheriffs and deputies, and you're going to randomly shuffle and deal out the 5x5 grid of town cards. You can use the basic cards that we have here, or the advanced buildings, which we'll talk about in just a second, is one of the modules you can plug in to increase the strategic depth of the game. The base cards all are going to just be named locations, like the veterinarian, the courthouse, the dentist, all kinds of different places within town. These named locations are important because certain places and certain characters need to go to certain places to accomplish their goals. For instance, the outlaws need to go to specifically named places at the start of the game to recover their treasure that they've left, their money from their bank heist. They need to get it and get out of town. The Can-Can Dancer needs to check certain things off her to-do list before she leaves town, so she needs to go to specific places. So some characters are moving around and trying to open the map up to find these specific named locations. Movement is very simple in the game of Cactus Town. As you program your actions, you can either sneak or run normally. All players have access to that. Sneaking will let you move one space and you will not reveal the card that you go onto. Running would let you move up to multiple spaces and reveal the card that you land on. Even if you jump over other cards, you only reveal the one that you land on. So movement's very clean. It's always orthogonal for all players with the exception of the Can-Can Dancer, who, with one particular card of hers, can move diagonally as well. So movement is very clean and quick as you move around. One thing that's very fun that brings the tension to Cactus Town is if you're ever in the same space with an opponent, you're in what's called a deadlock. And the only way that you can get away normally is to sneak or have a duel. If you duel that opponent and beat them in the duel, the loser is going to get pushed up to 3 spaces away by the winner. So say the bounty hunter here defeats this outlaw, they can choose to push this outlaw up to 3 spaces orthogonally in any kind of direction they want to go. This, of course, could mess up the outlaw's plans and what they have programmed and set up to do, and also gets them away and could push them into someone else to mess up their plan. So there's lots of hijinks and chaos as you play throughout the game. Again, players will be moving around categorically trying to find these specific locations that are key to their objectives as they go, but in the base cards, all these are named locations. Let's kind of talk about the modules, though, that you can add in to increase the depth. The first is my favorite, which is the advanced buildings. All of these advanced buildings, which are still named, have specific abilities and actions that activate on them when you flip over to them. And so what those will do will actually play into some of the other modules and expansions and give you a lot more depth and strategy about where you go and how you want to interact with the town as you go through these places. So let's first talk about this cactus symbol. That is going to play into the cactus token. The cactus token can actually sit on buildings and will prevent people from moving through or into that space. And every time you get this symbol, and reveal a cactus token, you can actually move this to any other unoccupied space on the map. This again can be a great buffer to protect you from other people trying to attack you, or a way to mess with opponents and prevent them from getting where they might want to get to as quickly. Also, there are these dual tokens. There's 4 dual tokens that you can incorporate in the game. These are kept secret and hidden behind your little screen that you saw earlier in the video. These can be used in duels if you choose secretly. They will add 1 to your dice roll, trap an opponent's movement, allow you to re-roll your dual dice, or stop the duel entirely and protect you from attack. And these can be gained through going to various places and collecting those tokens. These can be very helpful to kind of turn the tide and give you a little more strategic depth and strategy and trickery as you go throughout your duels in a game of Cactus Town. But play will continue like this, with people moving around, interacting with the buildings, opening them up, figuring out what the layout of Cactus Town looks like, and dueling each other until one of the 4 teams accomplishes their particular set of objectives. And that, in a nutshell, is everything you need to know to jump in and enjoy your time with Cactus Town. A fun little programming game for 2 to 4 players that I was really pleased to get to, and it was a lot of fun packed into this very tiny little box. But what did I really think about it? As always, I love to focus on the rule book. I think that's really important. This could be called more of a rule pamphlet than a book, but it was great. It was clean, it was clear, things were laid out very nicely, illustrations were given, and again, it's a pretty quick read, which is great for the size of the box. I would have hated to have had to bust out my reading glasses for something of this size. This is very clear. The game itself is quite light at the base setting. Once you begin to add the advanced buildings and the tokens and the dice, it becomes a nice light to maybe light medium weight game. Programming is always best, in my opinion, if it's on the lighter side, both in time and investment, because there's a lot of chaos that can happen, and if you have to suffer bad programming for hours, it can be frustrating. But in a nice limited window, programming is a really fun mechanic that's great in this game, and it works wonderful in Cactus Town. Again, you have these asymmetric factions, so there's replayability there, all trying to accomplish and do different things, some of which is maybe arguably easier than others. But it's a fun mechanic and fun little rivalry that you find yourself dropped into, with outlaws and sheriffs and bounty hunters kind of trying to do their little tug of war, and then this can-can dancer just kind of jumping in, doing their own thing, almost like the renegade from Bang or other Western games, if you're familiar with those. And so a really fun little world that's been created. The art is really great, and the symbology on the cards is quite clear. You know very quickly what to expect, and again, it's great that there's those little unique handouts for each faction, so you know exactly what your symbology does and what it means, and that way you don't have to have a lot of questions. The teach on this game is very quick and clean, even adding in all of the modules, which again are always optional. It adds a lot of depth and simplicity to the game, which is great. I love having the option to make the game deeper or lighter based on your table's preferences, and I think that's a great formula that Second Gate has built out here. Again, it's a really tiny little box. I really enjoyed this one. This was one that I got out with my family because it is light, it's easier to teach, and lighter on time, so it worked out great. But we had a lot of fun with it. Setup cards and everything that's built into it make it very easy to put together and take down and teach. So I had a really fun time with this title. If you're looking for something new that you want to add to your collection that's kind of on that lighter time scale, lighter strategy level that fits into that programming niche, then I would really encourage you to check out Cactus Town. It's a blast. I had a lot of fun with it. The theme was really great, and I think you'll enjoy the hilarity that can come up with all of the different movements and interactions that you can have on the board with your friends and with your family. And this is definitely one that is not going to be over anybody's head. It's one that you could get the whole group into and have a blast just messing with each other, sending each other to jail, and doing all the fun that you can get packaged in this tiny box of Cactus Town. So As always, I want to thank you for checking out our video reviews. I hope you find them informative and as fun to watch as we have fun making them. We love sharing this content with you, so please, if you are so inclined, be sure to like and subscribe and follow us for all the new content that we're putting out. We're always putting out new stuff because we love board games and want to share what we love with you. So again, I hope you'll continue to come back to Meeple Mountain for all of your board game related needs. And as always, happy gaming.
Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out these links to find some other games you might want to bring to the table. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.